How you doing, guys? Big Matt Danskull here again today, back once again with another video in my Conquest series for you. This week I'm taking a look at issue 15. So, issue 15 of Conquest. Let's take a look inside, see what we've got. Firstly, let's take a look at the front cover. We are getting the Biologus Putrifier. Where is he? He's down here. We're getting him in this issue, plus some extra dice. Which is nice. We always need more dice, especially the more models we get, the more dice we're going to need to roll in the battles that are taking place with the miniatures we've gained. So the Biologus Putrifier is a nice little miniature. I'll go into the rules a bit later. It's a £15 miniature from Games Workshop. Let's give the dice a value of... oh, you know what? These dice actually look better than the previous dice we got. I think these dice are different dice to the first ones we got, the first lot we got. They seem a little bit higher quality. I might be wrong. I'd have to compare them to be sure, but my other dice are in the other room, so I won't be doing that today for you. I might let you know in next week's video if I think these dice are actually a better quality. Not convinced. It doesn't really matter though. They roll randomly, don't they? That's what we want really. So with 6 more dice, we've got 12 dice altogether now. And a £15 miniature. So let's just be generous and say the dice are worth £1 and give it a value of £16. And then the issue itself cost £7.99 as always. So you're getting, you know, about double the value there. So issue 15 of Conquest, Biologus Putrifier. Learn more about the Horus Heresy. Interesting that it says that, because when I go through the pages, you'll see there's not an awful lot about the Horus Heresy in there really. And weapon rules in your games. So firstly, it tells us about the Biologus Putrifier, about how he has these racks of grenades on his back, and he and other units nearby to him can pluck a grenade and launch it at the enemy, and it's a hyper blight grenade as opposed to a blight grenade. It's slightly stronger, does slightly more damage, but no AP value on that weapon, but still it's a better grenade than they've previously had access to, the Death Guard. And then it talks about his injector pistol as well, which is disappointing. It only has a range of 3 inches, so it's a very short range pistol. That a lot of pistols go, I think, up to 12 inches and some 6 inches, but yeah, this one's only 3-inch range, so you've got to be really up close and personal to be able to use that. Definitely within charging distance. Even a 12-inch pistol, you're within charging distance in the game. And then it goes on to the Horus Heresy, and we get this lovely bit of artwork that I'm familiar with because I've been into the hobby for years now. This is the Emperor of Mankind, and these are 2 of his sons here. This fella here, this lovely looking winged fella with a nice leopard skin on him, is Sanguinius. He's Primarch of the Blood Angels Legion of Space Marines, and this is Horus, or Horus, who is Primarch of the Lunar Wolves, or the Sons of Horus Space Marines. And Horus, as the title, the Horus Heresy, would suggest, is basically he turned against his father, the Emperor. His father, he's not really a father, the Emperor. I think in some ways he's a gene father, like he used some of elements of himself in the construction, in the engineering of the Primarchs. But he's not really a father figure to him, and he's not the best dad if he's a dad. The Emperor, in my opinion. You may read more about the Horus Heresy and develop a different opinion from mine, but my opinion's right and yours is wrong if that's the case. So, on to what it actually tells us. Doesn't tell us an awful lot. It's got this page, and then that page, and it doesn't tell us an awful lot about the Horus Heresy. Basically says what I've just told you. Ultimately, that's what it says. It tells you Horus and 8 of his brothers turned against the Emperor. There was 18 Primarchs in total, 20 altogether actually, but 2 of them are expunged from the record, so we don't actually know what's happened to them. So there were 18 remaining Primarchs and Space Marine Legions, and 9 of them turned traitor against the Emperor and the Emperor's forces. And they tried to kill the Emperor, and then it ended up with the Emperor being mortally wounded, but he's sort of in a deathless state. His body is sat on the Golden Throne on Terra, which is what Earth is known as, and he's kept alive, essentially. He's like a rotting carcass that's kept alive. You know, just your casual everyday rotting carcass that's kept alive by some kind of machine, and he sort of psychically communicates with certain people when they come to see him, like his son, Big Bobby G, Rabute Gilliman. So that's all it tells you about the Horus Heresy. It doesn't really give you any more information. And then it goes on to the assault on Ajax, which is basically bringing us up to speed. All that sort of stuff. The Horus Heresy happened in the 31st millennium. Then 10,000 years later, these wars, traitor against loyalist, are still going on 10,000 years later. So the Imperium's still fighting these traitor Space Marine legions. And one of the wars that's going on is the assault on Ajax, involving the Ultramarines and the Death Guard, which is our two forces that we've been collecting so far. The Ultramarines, I say, but I'm painting my Space Marines as Imperial Fists. But of course, the Ultramarines are the poster boys, the blue boys. And then we've got, it basically goes into detail introducing the sort of role that the Biologus Putrifier plays in the wars on Ajax. And it gives us a nice little short story, a little bit of fluff in there, which is always good to add a bit of flavour to the narrative. And then it's on to the how to build section. We've got a picture of the sprue again, as always, and then a really simple how to build section there. And then it's on to how to paint. It's pretty similar how to paint section, to be honest. There's nothing new in there. So I'm not even going to bother turning the pages and showing you. There's a bit of Bugman's Glow used, Death Guard green, black, gold and silver, lead belcher, Abaddon black or Abaddon black. And yeah, there's nothing new in there, and they use the washes as well. And then it goes on to the biological warfare, the tutorial mission 14 goes on to that, and it tells us. Let's read this bit again for you, because I've been reading these, and I think some people get a little kick out of when I read them to you. So this little story section here, let's read this.
The dull pop of black grenade explosions echoes through the decks of the Honor of Ultramar, accompanied by the screams of the wounded. A Biologus Putrifier and foul Blightspawn are conducting foul experiments on fallen Ultramarines. Librarian Arion rallies his men once more, intent on stopping the pair of vile villains before the Ultramarines fall victim to their diseases. Using his psychic might to track them, Librarian Arion and his brothers wait in ambush on the cargo deck. Soon the Putrifier and Blightspawn enter the deck, seeking new victims to experiment upon. With a furious battle cry, Arion and his men launch their attack.
So the dastardly Biologus Putrifier and the foul Blightspawn, very mustache twirly, are attacking the cargo deck once more, looking for Ultramarine victims to experiment on with the diseases that they carry. And yeah, that's what this. I kind of skimmed over the bit at the start, but this section here sort of tells you that the Biologus Putrifier, he's kind of constantly experimenting with the diseases. So when he sees a particular virulent strain of the plague pox that has affected a victim really badly, or you know, it's doing its job, then he will extract a sample with this pistol, with this sort of a needle pistol thing, and he basically then injects this injector pistol it is. He then injects that into his next victim to see if he can develop it any further and improve the concoction. And that's his sort of role on the battlefield, to spread the plagues. And that's what he does. So going back to the tutorial mission and the rules section at the back here, so then it goes more onto the Biologus Putrifier, and it gives us rules here in terms of the blight racks, and it tells you that units within 3 inches of him can throw a hyper blight grenade instead of their normal blight grenade. And pestilential explosion, if his last wound is removed, all models within each enemy unit rather within 7 inches suffer 1 mortal wound on a roll of a 4 up. So on a roll of a 4 up he explodes, and then all units within 7 inches suffer a mortal wound. So it's given us the rules there that we'll need to understand to play the game. But also interestingly or confusingly or unnecessarily, it's given us the rules there because it's given us the rules here as well. So I'm not really sure why they need to give us the rules there and then there. It seems like a waste of a page, that to me. Yeah, it's an interesting one. But that's what they do. And then onto weapons now. It's trying to explain to us in a bit more detail here the role of each type of weapon on the battlefield, and then so it gives us the idea of a pistol, an assault weapon, heavy weapon, rapid fire weapon, and grenades, and it explains sort of the limitations of them and the role of them on the battlefield. And then it goes on to explain weapons profiles to us. But in last week's issue and the week before's issue, they've given us data sheets to play the game, and the weapons are on the data sheets. So it's like they're doing things out of order here. They're explaining the weapons profiles on the data sheets to us 2 weeks after the first time we've played with these data sheets. So it just doesn't seem right that they're doing it in that order. Another example of that is in last week's issue when we were expected to use the, is it the Mephitic Blight Hauler? The vehicle we've got for the Death Guard, which I've now built, by the way, so I'll show you that in a future video, maybe this Sunday in my weekly update video. So yeah, in the last issue, they were expecting us to use that, despite the fact that we don't have a data sheet for it yet. And they're expecting us to use the data sheets with the old rules. It's like they're just doing things out of order, or they're not necessarily thinking about which order these magazines are going to be released in. So they've printed a run of however many. I'm sure they've got it all planned out, all 80 issues planned out. But they're not realising people are going to have to wait a week or 2 weeks to sort of make sense of some of the things, because we've been sort of left to our own devices. I mean, they're not that hard to understand, these weapons profile sections, and it was sort of briefly explained to us, but then now they're explaining to us in more detail what the weapons profiles mean and what they do, and it just seems unnecessary. Like, a lot of the stuff in this rules section of this issue seems unnecessary to me, because if we've not worked it out by now, then, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just, because I'm a sort of a seasoned player of sorts. Maybe I'm just getting a little frustrated, whereas a newer player who the magazine is targeted at, maybe they would be more thankful to have this, because they might have been struggling with understanding the weapons profiles. But to me, it just seems unnecessary or strange that they're giving us this information now, 2 weeks after they first asked us to use these data sheets. But anyway, let me know what you think about that in the comments below. It could be that you disagree with me, it could be that you agree with me. Either way, just let me know. And then it gives us the vectors of disease? Yes, vectors of disease. The aim of this scenario is well, I won't tell you the aim first, I'll tell you the people involved. You've got the Biologus Putrifier and the Foul Blightspawn on the Death Guard side. Space Marines have 3 Intercessors, Primaris Librarian, and 3 Aggressors. Seems weighted pretty much in the Space Marines' favour there. However, with the how to win, the Space Marines' aim of the game is to remove the Biologus Putrifier from play, and the aim of the Death Guard player is to remove the Primaris Librarian from play. So the Death Guard only have to kill 1 character, so it's not as bad as it first seems, I'd suggest in that. And there's some interesting combinations you can do as well with these 2 Death Guard characters. Let's flick back to the data sheets and talk you through it. So here's my interesting combination. The Biologus Putrifier, the Hyper-Blight grenades, a grenade D6, strength 4, 2 damage, and on a roll of a 6 to wound as well. That causes a mortal wound as well as any other damage done. So if you combine that grenade with the ability of the Foul Blightspawn Unholy Death's Head, each Foul Blightspawn carries a single Unholy Death's Head grenade. Once per battle, Foul Blightspawn or any friendly character within 3 inches of him can throw his Unholy Death's Head grenade instead of either a Blight grenade or a Hyper Blight grenade. When they do so, change that weapon's type to grenade 2d6. So you get potentially twice the number of shots. You get up to 12 shots there. And then you're rolling so many dice then that you're bound to roll a few 6s, which causes mortal wounds, and you don't get to make a saving roll against a mortal wound. And also, it's a strength 4 grenade, as opposed to the standard Blight grenades, which are strength 3 grenades. So that's a good combination of weapons to use, the Unholy Death's Head and the Hyper Blight grenade. So it just gives you more shots, and it's only once per battle, but it's a nice little combination there as well. And don't forget as well, with the Blight racks, the Biologus Putrifier can throw a Hyper Blight grenade, but so can the Foul Blightspawn if he's within 3 inches of the Biologus Putrifier, so they can both throw the Hyper Blight grenades. The Foul Blightspawn, though, his standard weapon, the Plague Sprayer, is pretty good. It's got a slightly bigger range. Assault 2d6, Assault d6, strength 2d6, minus 3 AP, and 3 damage. So his Plague Sprayer is going to be doing more damage than the Hyper Blight grenade anyway. So it'd be better to use the Hyper Blight grenade with other cheaper units, maybe like Poxwalkers, for example. And then let's flick back to the last few pages. So we've read all this. Space Marine player and Death Guard player read this. I've not actually read this bit, so bear with me a second as I read this. Rules that affect Death Guard units, such as disgustingly resilient, will be listed on the datasheet of your units. The Foul Blightspawn and the Biologus Putrifier can upgrade each other's grenade attacks, provided they are close enough to each other. Oh, what did I just read? What did I just flip back and read then? I didn't even need to read that. I know this. I know the combinations. It's like I've played the game before, isn't it? And then the Space Marine player, read this. Remember to make use of Smite. This is the easiest way to take down the Biologus Putrifier. That's the Smite is a psychic power that the Librarian can use. Be cautious of the Foul Blightspawn's Plague Sprayer. This weapon can easily wipe out an entire unit in one shot. It's a 2d6. It's not a 2d6 damage weapon. It's the one I was just reading the profile of, and I've forgotten it already. Damage 3, 2d6 shot strength, so an assault d6 shots. So it can take out a unit pretty easily. That, and then it gives you, instead of we've been having weapons rules on this back page, but now it's giving us a bit more fluff. So it's setting the story. It's saying the battle for the Honor of Ultramar is almost coming to a close. So it looks like to me they're going to take us down onto the surface of the planet soon. Not just yet, because we've got 2 more sets of containers to give us. I've shown you the back page there, haven't I? So next week we're getting the first sprue from the Dark Imperium box set for the Plague Marines, which contains an Inceptor, 2 Intercessors, and 2 Hellblasters. And then the following week we're getting another shipping container, a Munitorum container, which is more terrain for us, which is fantastic, like I've said. I wonder what we'll get in issue 18. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. And that's all I've got for you for the time being. But what I'll say first, before I say, see you on the battlefield, I'll just say it's an okay issue. We get a good character in it, and initially I thought the character wasn't very good, because he's only got a 3-inch ranged gun, the pistol, and he's got grenades other than that, which you can throw a maximum of 6 inches. But if you combine him with other units, he can actually become quite good. If, for example, you had units of Poxwalkers, you could get, if you set your units up right, you could get about 10 units within 3 inches of him, and they could all take a grenade off his back and throw it. but they can obviously only throw it 6 inches. So it's limited to what he can do, but he's actually a bit better than I thought he was initially. And yeah, so it's a decent issue because of the miniature you get. It's a lovely looking miniature as well. Let's just say that is a very Death Guard looking miniature. The grenade racks sort of look like a fly's wings, which I think is what they were going for there with the aesthetic. So yeah, it's a decent issue with a good character and more dice, which is always good. I'll leave it there for now, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.